Hi everyone, we're going to have a look at annotations now and how to actually go about annotating your work. So today's objectives are going to look at usefulness, annotations, bias, reliability, validity and credibility. Usefulness, what you really need to look at is, when you're considering an article or like a text or any other source, um, does it actually assist you in answering your questions? That's what you really need to be looking at. Some useful tools. So look for useful purpose. Is it actually helping you answer your question? Is there some sort of link to your research project focus? Will it provide you with the information that you have wanting to kind of seek? And is it understandable? Like, do you actually get all the terms that are there? And is it something that you can easily like get your head around? Does it lead to other sources? So quite often some of your sources will actually lead to somewhere else. So that's another good part of a source, is it might link you to some extra things that you can actually access as well. Does it actually provoke some questions for you? Does it make you think of a whole range of new um, questions or even topics or even ideas that you might not have thought about before? And how have you developed your capability? Are you being able to develop your chosen capability here? When annotating, basically what you're doing is adding notes, giving an explanation or comment. And really, the key thing here is that you're actually going to analyze. Okay, you're actually looking towards analyzing what sources you've actually got there. Uh, some other key things that you can do are look for, like you can scan the work for some clues. Are there things like titles or subheadings, or are there images, or is there information about the author? They should be able to, you should be able to look for these clues and what the text will be telling you. Is there any bias in there, and so forth? Particularly with you can spot some of this through the use of subheadings and so forth. Some questions that you might like to consider when you're actually looking at your annotations. So who's the author? Can you verify the actual source? This is where you're looking at that credibility and, are they actually who they say they are, and so forth. What's the main issue that is raised in here in this particular article or source of information? When did it take place? When was it actually written? Is it dated, or is it actually something that's only recently been written? And then does it allow you to have something like a comparison with a whole range of different sources too? How how are you telling information, from one side? Is there more bias towards one side, or are they just explaining it from the one side rather than putting all sides together? Why? Uh, why are they presenting it in this way? Is this where they actually have some bias? Do they actually only present one side of the story? And where? Where was it produced? So, like an example might be that you're accessing some data on the local area, and that's relevant to your question, but then are you actually then accessing some information from the other side of the world, and really is that actually even relevant to your information that you need to have? Uh, some things that you can do is tracking. So obviously there's some themes and ideas. What are you noticing that's actually coming out of your research that you're doing, and the texts or the interviews or any type of resource that you are actually accessing. You can also notice tone. So, is there positive and negative tone? Or are they actually having some similarities between a couple of things as well? Can you make some connections? Are they similar to other sources that you've actually done? Can you make that comparison and, utilize your things like your journal to write these down? Is it significantly different? And state, why is it different? Does it help you then answer your question better? Does it take you in a different direction with your research? And even ultimately, can it change or help you refine your question somewhat? What do you still need to know? From after reading this article, did it not help you answer? And if it didn't, what other things can you find or can you look at answering? So you can write those things down. You might also need to verify some information. Maybe you need to go further, do some further research, or you might have to look up some terminology or anything along those lines. So how to annotate? So you might have a piece of text or something. You can highlight keywords, ideas, quotes, interesting information and statistics. In order to meet that performance standard, it's not about just highlighting everything, but actually being quite specific with what you're doing. So keywords, ideas, quotes, that kind of stuff you're really interested in doing. Some other ideas you might, make sure that you're maximizing all your margins. Call it margin madness or whatever, but you're making sure you're utilizing the page, or maybe there's a margin that you can actually use down the side of the page to add some extra information to. You can use things like post-it notes, you can scribble on it, it's your work, so you can set it out however you like. You can utilize things like comment boxes. Oops, there's a spelling mistake there. So you can look at things like comment boxes, and there you can talk about your reliability and all of those sorts of things. Or ultimately, you can also add information into a separate journal entry. So analysis, we're looking at that reliable, valid, biased, credible. Remember, I've already developed a couple of videos on these, so it's well worth going back and revisiting them, or actually making sure you have a clear idea about those things. So you should be recording and writing about all of these each time you're annotating a source. So in summary, think about the usefulness of the piece of work. Make sure you annotate. You're looking at bias, reliability, validity, and credibility. And we also have some examples around the classroom that we've collected from previous students and their folio, so that you can kind of have a bit of a look at and see what are some examples. Plus, we've also got the SACEboard website, which you can find as well. Otherwise, you can come and speak to myself or your teacher. And if you have any other questions, just email us or have a chat.